if the Liberals are signed up to the climate alarmist agenda and are too scared to invest in coal-fired power stations, why don't they push for nuclear?
Well, it's an important point, Fred. We know that the Australian people want nuclear. A polling that we discussed on the Alan Jones show not long ago was over 50% of Australians want nuclear power, including a majority of those aged 18 to 24, because it can provide that baseload power that we need. Now, I think the debate is starting to open up a little bit. At least we've seen Peter Dutton and the Nationals leader David Littleproud say that they're open to a debate on nuclear power, but we have a long way to go as a nation. As you know, that there is currently a ban in place at the federal level on the development of nuclear power in Australia, despite the fact that we have 1/3 of the world's uranium deposits, despite the fact that we send that uranium overseas so other countries can use the uranium in their own nuclear facilities. It remains banned in Australia, but we're not going to have a choice. If we're outlawing coal, if we're making it hard to get gas onto the market, we know that wind and solar can't get the job on. We're going to have to go for nuclear power, and it is becoming clearer by the day that the ban on nuclear must be repealed.
Well, it makes sense, Daniel. You said we have 1/3 of the world's uranium reserves. It's probably around 40%. We should be exploiting that advantage to generate clean, reliable nuclear power. Daniel, how strong do you think the ideological opposition to nuclear power is?
Well, it's reasonably strong among hardcore activists, but I think it's weakened over recent years for a couple of reasons. One is that countries like France, for example, 70% of their energy comes from nuclear, 20% in the UK. It's about the same in the US and also in Canada. So it's proven to be a pretty safe, effective form of energy generation around the Western world. Now, the key point is that these are nations that have signed up to net zero as well. So one of the points that is often not made, or is almost never made by those pushing net zero and referring to international examples, is, well, those other nations that I just mentioned have a significant portion of their energy coming from nuclear as well, which we do not have. So the point is here that not using nuclear means that net zero is even more of a cost impost on Australians as compared to those other nations I just mentioned. But look, I'm hopeful that the debate is changing as prices continue to grow, as this energy supply crisis continues to spread across the nation. More and more Australians are saying we need nuclear and we need more coal.
Daniel, we can't say it often enough. The funny thing is, these lefties seem to conveniently forget that nuclear power is virtually emissions-free. Even the Greens party in Finland supports it. France has it too. Bill Gates, who pens books about climate disaster, remember he said, quote, "Nuclear is ideal for dealing with climate change because it's the only carbon-free, scalable energy source that's available 24 hours a day." Daniel, this is not to mention the commerce and decent paying jobs it would generate. When do you think those in Canberra will wake up to this?
Well, I think they're going to wake up when those in the community demand it. You know, it's the case that when people feel the pain of the rising prices and, as you mentioned before, the inflation and rising cost of living, they're going to be demanding alternatives and looking for leadership. Now, that leadership is not there, but I think it's going to come. I think it's going to be inevitable as we have to confront this crisis. And the critical point here is that under the Labor government, we know they want to legislate for over 80% of our energy to come from renewables. We're currently at about 25%. It is simply not possible for us to do that. Our system will break. And at that moment, the Australian people will be demanding leadership for reliable baseload power. And I think that's when the moment for change will come.